What's up YouTube? Welcome back. Today it is the Lazy Daze channel and we're back at it again with some more, I guess, history reaction for you guys today. It's me, Tubby, and Jack for you in this video today, and we're going to be doing a highly requested videos, and that's going to be video, The Loss of Life in World War I Visualized, and it is by RealLifeLore. I'm glad that was so easy. Sometimes I get the names terrible.
You just don't want to butcher it.
Yeah, I really don't. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't research it earlier, so I was like, oh no, what if this is just absolutely terrible? But no, RealLifeLore. If you haven't checked out their content, please head over to their page. A link will be in the description down below. It's the first time I've seen any of their type of content, so I'm really looking forward to seeing it. We done the World War II sort of visualised. I know it was by a different person.
Yeah. That really did kind of hit it.
Yeah.
When you see how many we lost.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see if they're doing the same sort of thing and just what's sort of going on here. So we're really loving the suggestions you guys have got for us. If you've got any more, please drop it in the comments down
keep them
below.
coming, man.
We're really enjoying it. If you're liking the content, then please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But we're just going to jump straight into this.
Let's do this.
I purposefully released this video on the 9th of November 2018. 2 days from now, on the 11th of November, will mark exactly 100 years since the end of the First World War, one of the most destructive and violent wars ever fought in human history. While the Second World War and the destruction it caused often overshadow the First World War, I felt like now would be a good time to remember and visualize the enormous loss of life that the Great War caused. We'll be counting soldiers and civilians separately, as well as deaths and injuries separately. A casualty can be a confusing statistic in war because it means that a soldier has been taken out of action, but not necessarily killed. Each of these models represents 1,000 people who died or went missing, while each of these models represents 1,000 people who were injured, which when combined equal the number of casualties. And we'll begin the counting with the United States. Over 116,000 soldiers died, and another 204,000 were injured fighting against the Germans and Austrians on the Western Front. This amounted to 0.17% of the American population at the time, becoming a casualty of war. But America only fought for a little over a year between 1917 and 1918. The war had already been going on for over 2.5 years before that. So let's take a look at some of the countries who were fighting from the beginning. The war began when Austria-Hungary declared war against Serbia in 1914, and Serbia suffered worse than any other country during the war. 375,000 Serb soldiers lost their lives in the fighting, while another 625,000 civilians died from famine and disease. That amounted to over 22%
of the population
during the 4-year-long war. More than 1 out of every 5 people in the country. Serbia was a member of one of the 2 alliances that fought against one another in the war called the Entente, which also included the United Kingdom, France, Russia, Italy, America, and many others, all of whom would suffer terribly. The United Kingdom would send over 815,000 soldiers to their graves, like on the first day of the Battle of the Somme, in which 19,000 would die in only 24 hours, the bloodiest single day in British history. Over 123,000 British civilians also lost their lives during the war, totaling up to just over 2% of the British population, or about 1 in every 50 people dying. But many more were wounded. 1,675,000 more soldiers, which adds together to 5.77% of the UK population then, becoming casualties of the war. Subjects of the British Empire like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, India, and South Africa also fought in the war and took high casualties. Percentage-wise, New Zealand suffered the worst, losing 3.8% of her population as wartime casualties, while numbers-wise Australia took the hardest hit, losing over 61,000 of her soldiers and suffering another 152,000 wounded, with Canada and India both not too far behind. but the other major Entente powers lost an incredible amount more. The Italians joined the war in 1915, but in 3 years of fighting suffered 555,000 military fatalities, along with 592,000
Civilian ones
civilian
as well,
deaths.
it's the
Another
same.
947,000 Italian soldiers became
Oh.
wounded, representing 5.8% of the Italian population becoming casualties, a figure roughly comparable to the UK percentage. But then there's Russia and France, both of whom suffered higher casualties than the entire Serbian population combined during the war.
What?
Russia was the first
Wait,
country
no. Did you say the entire Serbian country?
But then there's Russia and France, both of whom suffered higher casualties than the entire Serbian population combined during the war. Russia was the first country to come to Serbia's defense during the war and suffered catastrophic losses. 1,977,000 soldiers died fighting against the Central Powers, while another 1,140,000 civilians lost their lives. But Russia suffered vastly higher injuries. 4,350,000 soldiers were wounded during the fighting, which together represents 2.5% of the Russian population that became casualties. These enormous losses eventually helped contribute to Russia's spiral into revolution and their surrender in the war early into 1917. But percentage-wise,
That really does show you just how much manpower Russia has. Like the size of the country it is.
And how little
Like just how
care
many
they had.
Yeah, just how many people they can get to their arms.
That's
is
what it
insane.
was. It was literally just who can
Russia
who can
just
hold
has
out
the amount of
longest.
men. It's insane. 2.5% as well. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of people in Russia, so that's a lot.
That is, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
casualties. These enormous losses eventually helped contribute to Russia's spiral into revolution and their surrender in the war early into 1917. But percentage-wise, the Allied country that suffered during the war the most, besides Serbia, was France. Most of the Western Front took place in northeastern France and Belgium, and during 4 years of fighting, 1,377,000 French soldiers gave up their lives in defense of their country, along with 340,000 civilian fatalities. This represented a loss of life for 4.3% of the entire French population, but many, many more were wounded. 4,266,000 additional French soldiers were wounded or maimed by the war, representing a total casualty amount similar to Russia's, but from a much smaller population. In total, around 15% of France's population became a casualty during the First World War. A horrible loss of life that wasn't fully recovered.
15%.
Of that entire country became a casualty of war.
15%.
In total, around 15% of France's population became a casualty during the First World War. A horrible loss of life that wouldn't be fully recovered 20 years later at the start of the Second World War. Other Entente countries in order of wartime casualties include Romania, which also suffered terribly at 10.4% of their population becoming casualties, as well as Greece, Belgium, Portugal, Montenegro, and Japan, with only about 1,000 casualties during the entire war. But now let's take a look at the other side, the Central Powers, which were led by Germany. Germany was fighting on two fronts for most of the war and also suffered cataclysmic losses. 2,037,000 of her soldiers died fighting in the West and
Whoa.
East, and 590,000
Okay, that's a big number.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
2.3 million was that? Was that 2.3?
fronts for most of the war and also suffered cataclysmic losses. 2,037,000 of her soldiers died fighting in the West and the East, and 594,000 of her civilians died largely due to starvation caused by the Allied blockade of the country. Another 2.5 million German soldiers were wounded during the course of the war, amounting to 7.8% of Germany's population becoming a casualty. While Germany suffered the highest raw numbers of the Central Powers casualties, she didn't suffer the highest percentage-wise. While Austria-Hungary took less casualties overall overall, they represented a higher proportion of that empire's population, 10.77%. Over 1.3 million soldiers were killed and another 3.6 million injured, all of which helps to explain why the Austro-Hungarian Empire itself wasn't able to survive the war. But the worst suffering on the Central Power side occurred inside of the Ottoman Empire, and most of it was self-inflicted. The Ottomans joined the war in 1915 and suffered 548,000 military fatalities, and another 582,000 wounded fighting against mostly the British, French, and the Russians. But absurdly high civilian deaths inside of the Ottoman Empire were largely due to the Ottoman government's policy of ethnic cleansing against her Armenian, Greek, and Assyrian ethnic minorities, collectively known as the Armenian Genocide. 1.5 million Armenians were systematically killed by the Ottoman government during and shortly after the war, along with 600,000 Greeks and 225,000 Assyrians. Accounting for all of this, in addition to the military casualties, an enormous 17% of the Ottoman Empire's population was killed.
Oh, that's fucking disgusting.
Holy
They ethnic cleansed it. That's just fucking...
their own people in their own country. I know, like, it's not their...
That's
it
disgusting.
is, like, they live there. Oh, it's disgusting. 17%. Ah, makes you sick.
Why
Makes
the
you sick.
fuck does human life continue?
Oh, mate, we don't deserve to be on this planet. So, I mean, we're disgusting.
Any aliens out there, if you do watch YouTube and you happen to come across this channel, appreciate it. Kind of want to know why you haven't. Yeah, just do us like Alderaan.
Oh, mate.
125,000 Assyrians, accounting for all of
It's
this in
disgusting.
addition to the military casualties. An enormous 17% of the Ottoman Empire's population was killed or wounded during the conflict, which can also help to explain why this empire too didn't survive long after the war was over. And finally, Bulgaria was another member of this alliance that suffered greatly as well, with 6.8% of their population becoming casualty victims of the Great War. In total, and across all countries, about 9 million soldiers lost their lives, as well as 7 million civilians. 36% of all deaths were Entente military, 22% were the Central Powers military, another 22% were Central Powers civilians, and the final 20% were Entente civilians.
Wow.
The First World War was, and still remains, the bloodiest war ever
That's
fought
scary.
in the history of the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Belgium, Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, Turkey, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. The Second World War was actually not as bad for all of these mentioned countries, but it would be worse for others like Russia and Germany. Hopefully, after two terrible lessons during the 20th century, humanity will never forget what can happen when we let our differences get the better of us. Lessons of any kind are valuable for both societies and for individuals. And if you made it all the way through this video to here, it's clear that you enjoy learning. So why not learn even more about anything you want to by going over to Skillshare.
That is insane. That is eye-opening. It's like
yeah, like, bro, that
I just don't know what to say. It leaves you so speechless.
That ethnic cleansing is just
by the Ottoman Empire.
That is just absolutely vile.
That's absolutely vile. Because they didn't take that many military.
No.
Like, if they didn't do that, they would have.
Their casualties was literally their civilian.
It's
God.
disgusting. It's disgusting. And again, just the total loss of life.
Just in
the
general.
waste of life.
9 million soldiers and 7 million civilians in total. 7 million civilians.
Is that what they said?
Yeah. Yeah, go back.
How far back? There you go, yeah.
9 million soldiers and 7 million civilians.
That's insane. And then we went and done it again.
I just don't understand.
And we went and done it again.
I can't understand. What was the reason of it, other than we need to see how this upgraded warfare is going to work now? What, was that it? Was that the objective?
Well, like it's there's
just
so many different
it's just
things.
overpowered men with egos bigger than their balls.
It's lots of little microcosmic things that happen.
It's just everything all over the place.
Yeah, like I said, like it builds up like way before. Do you know what I mean, there are so many little bits and pieces that mount on top of each other that lead to these types of crises, and it's just insane.
But a loss of life of 16 million in total.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it at all. All the homes destroyed, landscapes, history. Just
and
lives.
that is it, like the landscape as
Everything.
well, like everything. That's disgusting. Let us know what your thoughts are in
let
the
us
comments box down below. If you have any more suggestions, then please send it our way. It's a bit hard to sort of say. I'm just sort of speechless with this episode. I think so is Jack. So we are enjoying it. If you haven't already, head over to what's their name? Real Life Lore, and the description will be in the
link will be in the description below.
That's the one. That's the one. If you're enjoying our content, then please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But we're just going to catch you in the next one.
Still out.